if you like.
This meeting is being recorded.
That's great. So the idea of today is actually, to welcome you to the DTx Club. So it's the first event. We have launched many other events in digital health, but now we have concentrated now focusing on digital therapeutics. So the idea of this community, which belongs to people that want to join this club and has a lot of interest in this topic, which is it's a growing topic. And ask everyone please to mute themselves. Yes, thank you. So the idea is now to run different events once every month, more or less. We always try to bring and invite people which are relevant in this field. And today we want to go through the opportunities in digital therapeutics. I think from the clouds we have new people and also people that joined the first digital therapeutic excellence program that we launched in November. So Armando, can you go once ahead? Okay, so today the speakers are
You're on mute, Luca.
You're on mute, Luca.
Sorry.
I went to mute because somebody muted everybody. So I went to mute as well. So I want to start with the ladies today to introduce everyone. So it's Annabelle Leon from Digital from Bayer, so a digital lead pharma, also joined the first edition of DT Excellence program. Happy to have you here. And the second one is Karine Solat. Sorry, Karine, for the pronunciation. My French is terrible. Which is the Vice President VP for Marketing at Wealthy Therapeutics. And then we have, it's not Abhishek, actually could not participate, and we haven't had the chance to change the picture, but Prayat, who is also VP for Partnerships and Business Development at Wealthy, joined instead. So very happy to have you here, Prayat. And last but not least is Rafael Doulat, who is working for Sermo, and it's a customer success manager. So maybe we go to the next slide for the agenda. Yeah, so the agenda is, we got like intro. So to have everybody on the same stage, we have an intro about digital therapeutics, what's the definition, challenges, opportunities, and they are run by Raphael and Annabelle. And then we go through, we give the stage to Karine and Prayat, representation of Wealthy and also the opportunities that they can bring to the table, right? And then we have open discussion. So as we was before for the Future of Club, now Digital Therapeutics Club, what we love is to open the stage for discussion. So no, don't be afraid. Just keep asking questions. They're not silly questions, just silly answers. So we can go to and get it started. So Rafael and Annabelle, the floor is yours.
Great.
I go on mute for now.
Perfect. Well, nice to have you all on this call. So you can move slide. Let's go to the first slide. The next one, please. Okay, thank you. So first of all, let's start with a small definition of what is a DTx. I think it's good to know for those who do not have so much experience or just a small refresher. Okay, so you might have heard of the Digital Therapeutics Alliance, okay, which is a global non-profitable trade association specialized in DTx. And they shared a very knowledgeable and agreed definition by many experts of digital therapeutics. So let's go together into it. So I will read it, okay? And so digital therapeutics, DTx deliver medical interventions directly to patients using evidence-based, clinically evaluated software. Okay, so here I would like to focus on the software part because this is very important for DTx. Then let me continue. So software to treat, manage, and prevent a broad spectrum of diseases and disorders. So, and these are used independently or in combination with medication, devices, or other therapies to optimize patient care and health outcomes. Okay, so here it's very important to comment and to look into the evidence piece, so to show that it's evidence-based and clinically proven. Okay, and then what does it exactly mean that it's independently or in conceit with something? So this means that we actually have 3 different types of digital therapeutics. Okay, so we have the one which is completely independent. So this means that it is a software only novel therapy which prevents, managers, or treats through innovative qualitative software. Sorry? Could you please mute yourself? Thank you. So quality software programs that triggers interventions. So for instance, here we have an example. We have Kaya Health, who is specialized in musculoskeletal disorders. Okay, so you can check this later on. Then we have the companion DTx to a drug. Okay, so this means that it's a software which optimizes the care and the journey of the patient. So it can be, for instance, support in mental health for depression, or it can be for patients suffering of sleeping disorder with an app like Sleepio. And then we have the last type, which would be a companion in combination with a medical device. Okay, so it can be any different type of medical device. So this would be a software which optimizes existing medical devices based therapy. So for instance, you can take a diabetes patient who could previously read their glucose level by using a...
Sorry for interrupting. Maybe you want to switch, go to the next slide. Not sure if it's you or Armando.
No,
we are on the definition. Are you still in the definition of digital therapeutics?
I'm still there. I'm still on the definition.
All right.
So 3 types: standalone, companion DTx to existing molecular therapies, and companion in combination with a medical device. Okay, so let's now move to the next slide. Exactly. So digital therapeutics must adhere to 10 core principles to demonstrate the product safety, the efficacy, the quality, and the patient centricity. Okay, so this is very important for you if you want to launch a DTx to follow those core principles. If not, it cannot be launched as a DTx. Okay, so for me, according to me, the 5 core principles would be here that you must focus on will be, for instance, prevent, manage, or treat medical disorder or disease, produce a medical intervention that is driven by a software. So again, the software word, incorporate patient privacy and security prevention, what is nowadays getting even more important here in Europe, okay, and across the world. And it must be reviewed and cleared or certified by regulatory bodies. And you also need to collect, analyze, and apply real-world evidence or product performance data. So usually here, most companies use an agile way to improve the DTx continuously, okay? So to finalize on this part, so the digital therapeutics empower the patients, but not only, also the clinicians and payers with intelligent and accessible tools for addressing a wide range of conditions. And all this through a high quality, okay, safe and effective data-driven intervention. So all this is data-driven, so please keep this in mind. Now we can move to the next slide, please. Okay, so this one is just to give you a small context around DTx. So as you see, there are several companies in different therapeutic areas, but what is very important nowadays is that chronic diseases have increased the burden of our healthcare system across the globe, okay? So for instance, it is the leading cause of death globally, okay? So in the past year, it accounted for 17.3 million deaths per year, and now this figure is expected to rise to 23.6 million by 2030. Okay, so this shows the opportunity you have in chronic diseases, and this is where also DTx can have a huge impact. Okay, but now you obviously have a different approach in different geographies. So you have, for instance, some markets that are very at the infancy due to the lack of awareness, the minimum availability of these solutions, the lack of IT infrastructure, and the financial and social constraints. Okay. But now in emerging economies, such as taking as example India or China or the Middle East, they present a very growth opportunities for digital therapeutics. And now we have the emerging economies that already have all the tools to implement it, but we have other barriers here, such as regulatory level in Europe. So here I would just like to focus quickly on the main therapeutic areas where we have where we're using digital therapeutics. So as you can see here, I have listed them. So firstly, I will speak about mental health. Okay, so mental health is known as has known the biggest increase in DTx with the stress and anxiety caused by the pandemic, for instance. What accelerated the demand for virtual behavioral health services. And furthermore, the health crisis has created a high barriers to access to care with short and long-term implications. So those circumstances make that it's very favorable to an environment for digital health and for digital health solutions and DTx. Okay, so nowadays we would say that most of the investments are covered in two therapeutic areas, but obviously a lot of therapeutic areas are implicated in DTx. So we have, for instance, mental health, as I said already. You also have neurology, but you can also see that we have cardiovascular diseases, gastro, women's health, oncology. So here you can see several companies who are working in this field. And with this word, I will pass it to Annabelle Leon, who will continue with the opportunities more in detail.
Okay, thanks, Rafael. Could you please go to next slide? Okay, so yeah, we have seen right now that there are a lot of there is a promising landscape, okay, regarding related to digital therapeutics, because there are also a lot of opportunities behind digital therapeutics. Please, next slide. You can see here some figures because there's a huge market waiting behind digital therapeutics. On 2020, we had more than 90,000 digital health applications, okay, arriving to more than 350,000 people. From these applications, 250 was identified as digital therapeutics applications, okay, and from them, 150 were commercially available, okay? But if we talk about the market share of digital therapeutics, it's expected that from 2021 to 2026, the annual growth will be around 30%, okay? And that means that we will go from $3 billion, okay, in 2021 to more than $13 billion in 2026, okay? We are talking only about, in this case, digital therapeutics market. But if we think in global digital health market, okay, the size in 2020 is $96 billion, okay? And the annual growth expected from 2021 to 2028 is around 15%. So you see here that there is a huge expectations, okay, about the growth of digital therapeutics in the future. But that makes sense, okay, because there is a lot of opportunities, as I said before. Please, next slide, Armando. We have a lot of intervention opportunities, as you could see here, okay? There are many specialties to impact and many diseases to treat. It's Rafael talk about the ones that are mostly impacted in the moment, okay, about specialties, but there are a lot of them that are, let me say, starting the journey, okay, and there are a lot of things to do, like pediatrics, for example, or rheumatology, or reproductive health, okay. There is an ultimate goal behind of digital therapeutics, yes, achieving patient centricity, okay? And there is a lot of things to do around this, a lot of opportunities behind. So, of course, technology revolution is helping. We are in the fourth industrial revolution with a lot of technologies behind that could be by themselves a revolution by itself, okay? All of these technologies like artificial intelligence, virtual reality, machine learning, and so on. all these technologies are helping in the evolution of digital therapeutics moving forward. Of course, we have a growing population related to technology. There are every year the users using technology are increasing. So this is an opportunity also for digital therapeutics. And for example, in the case of healthcare professionals, we have millennials entering. Okay, there and there are every day that goes through, we have more people in the industry that is using technology, and he used it to use it, okay? There is a new paradigm in the health system. We need to be cost effective. We need to be patient focused. We need to focus in prevention, okay, and precision medicine. And digital therapeutics has a lot to say around all of these topics. Okay, for example, in reducing costs in the national health systems, as I mentioned before, be more patient focused. Okay, and of course, for working on prevention and precision medicine because of the data that is behind. And we have an aging population. Okay, impacted by chronic disease that has to be managed, and again, digital therapeutics has a lot of work to do in this case. Next slide, please. But if we think in the opportunities by the different stakeholders, okay, and we focus in this for one, patients, healthcare professionals, payers, and pharma. I will not go through all of them, all of these points, okay, but I will focus on what I think are the most important ones, okay. For example, if we think in patients, it's very important to highlight the ubiquity, the possibility of using these applications anywhere, anytime. If you need to go to a doctor, that's not an option. For example, if you go to a physiotherapist, okay, you cannot go anytime. But with an application like Kaya Health, you could do these sessions, okay, on your own, anytime, anywhere, when you could do it, okay. Another topic is that we have the opportunity of treating disease non-addressed or poorly addressed, but national health systems, okay, like rare disease. This is possible because the cost that is necessary to develop this kind of digital therapeutics and the possibility of reaching many people is better than if we have to go through, for example, healthcare professionals. And of course, personalization. I mentioned that before. One of the things that we could do with digital therapeutics is getting data from wearables, for example, from the patient. There is a lot of data behind, okay, that could be used to personalize the treatment or what the digital therapeutics is doing for each patient. So personalize really the intervention in this patient. If we think in the healthcare professionals, digital therapeutics has the opportunity to them to have a 360-degree of the patient, okay, as mentioned before, also because of the data that we could get from the patient. So the CP, the healthcare professional, is not only having the information that is coming from the patient in the visit, that of course sometimes you forget something to explain, but you also have all the data, and for example, you can identify events that if were not this monitoring would not be possible to identify. The healthcare professionals could use the data insights to make better clinical decisions, okay? And again, the data is having an important paper here, okay? Because with all the data getting from the patient, you could have as mentioned before, okay, this overview of the patient health, okay, and make better decisions, including algorithms related to artificial intelligence could guide you, okay, in what is a better treatment, okay, you got the better decisions for this patient, taking into account all the information around him or her, and could allow better coordination of the care, okay, because of this overall overview of the patient that you have with these solutions. If we think in payers, of course, it's important, the topic of reducing costs. Okay, we could reduce costs using digital therapeutics if we have very good examples on that one. For example, and that's also a relation with the 3 points behind, it's the preventive care, okay? If we could be preventive, okay, we will reduce costs in the national health system. For example, if we could identify that someone could have a cardio event before that happens, this will avoid later on a cost in the national health system. And if we think in the pharma industry, it could be important, this digital therapeutics, just to support clinical trials, okay, and have decentralized clinical trials. You could control the patient with a remote monitoring, for example, and has more real-world evidence data about what's happening around this patient, okay, that in another situation. And you can adjust treatments, okay, and increase the adherence for the treatment. That also this will impact again in the reducing costs in the national health system. So as you can see here, there are a lot of opportunities behind digital therapeutics, and well, it's only necessary that people, as you, could go on there, okay, and continue with the journey that a lot of people has started, that Rafael mentioned it before. So that's all. Thanks, Luca. I will pass to you the word. Thank you.
Thanks, Annabelle. Thanks, Rafael, as well, for your presentation. It was very, very interesting. Now let's give the stage to Prayat and Karin, so they can explain what Wealthy does, which is a digital therapeutics company. Actually, it builds digital therapeutics company solutions, and then we can get back to all the questions we had. So how do you define medical intervention? Maybe Prayat would also can explain straight away that one, or other questions that we have, we can keep them for the end. Maybe Prayat or Karin want to share this presentation, or Armando does. Yeah, already done. So not sure who starts.
I will.
This is yours.
Luca, can
Great,
you hear?
Karin.
Hi.
Here.
Nice to meet you all, and it's a great pleasure for me to present Wealthy. I'm head of marketing in Wealthy Therapeutics since the last 3 months, and it's a great pleasure to present it. So Wealthy Therapeutics, first of all, have the ambition to empower patients and to augment clinical outcomes, as you can see in the previous slide, actually. And for the future, Wealthy foresees a world where healthcare is a holistic problem, combining conventional and complementary approaches, such as physical exercise, mind and body connection, nutrition, cognitive behavioral treatment, etc. So it's in the future, Wealthy foresees a world where you prevent from being sick instead of curing the disease. As Annabelle mentioned before, that's really the future. And this is a great vision, according to me, and I wanted to share it with you. So now we go into concrete presentation of Wealthy Therapeutics with its platform, and also with numbers that I wanted to share with you. And then we will go into how DTx can be interesting within the patient journey for pharma. And we will present 2 case studies. So the first thing I wanted to highlight is the fact that Wealthy Care is a platform, a digital solution, created to support patient and healthcare professionals. And it can be personalized according to pharma needs. So first, it's a regulated and compliant-based platform with, how do you say that, CE mark, regulatory approved CE mark. It's a class 1 right now, and soon class 2A. It also follows all the security and privacy standards, the ISO 27001 and ISO 27701, and it's GDPR compliant. It is also aligned with the European medical device regulation with quality management system. So I think it's quite secure as a base platform. Now, the assets, the software itself, if you can go to the next slide, is built with patient and healthcare professional. It has dashboard for healthcare providers as well as for pharma, maintaining anonymity that's for sure. It has coaching infrastructure. It's not only digital, it's, let's say, phygital, because you have people on that you can talk to. And it also provides real world data and data almost on live, let's say. Next. So for physician and patient, if we can summarize what is a wealthy care platform, it's first a self-care management platform that provides management of side effects for treatment, for instance, education on the disease, in order to accompany the patient between two consultations to the doctors. And very often, doctors they complain because they say that, for instance, a treatment is too complicated because the patient will call him back, or and he doesn't have time to explain everything. So that's really something that Wealthy Care can take care of. And on the other side, a Wealthy Care platform can propose virtual rehabilitation with exercise programs and psychosocial counseling. And it's available remotely. And Annabelle mentioned that it's the possibility to do it whenever you want and remotely, let's say. And in the middle, you have the fact that you can also do patient monitoring remotely and clinical decision support, because it's a way also to gather biomarker, several data, real world evidence data, and at the end, a clinical decision support possibility for the doctors. Next slide. This platform, it's an agnostic platform, first of all, and then we can personalize it and really make it as the pharma wants, and also depending on the needs of the indication. And we have developed already this platform on several therapeutic area. And one of the major therapeutic area of expertise from Wealthy is cardiometabolic. We have done diabetes platform specific for diabetes patient, hypertension, dyslipidemia, heart failure, coronary artery disease, and cardiac rehabilitation as well. We also tackle a little bit of rare disease, where it could be very interesting to have this type of support for patient, or even a standalone DTx as presented by Raphael at the beginning. So we are working on pulmonary arterial hypertension. On pulmonology, we are working on asthma as well as obstructive sleep apnea. And we have also a platform available for women's health. And I know somebody from the listener, from the attendees, Mariam, I think, was mentioning women's health and cardiometabolic platform. So on women's health, Wealthy Therapeutics also works for in vitro fecundation, IVF, and also recurrent pregnancy loss support for patients. We are right now doing feasibility studies on oncology, especially on lung cancer, and immunology with rheumatoid arthritis. In terms of numbers, Wealthy Therapeutics is all over the world, but mainly in Asia and a bit in Europe right now. We have strong publication supported by American Diabetes Association, the American College of Cardiology, the European Society of Cardiology, and others. And it's really like a proven clinical study. So that's why we can talk about DTx in a way. We have partners in several partners, Abbott, Cipla, Viatris, Roche, ResMed, and Ferrer in Spain, by the way. And there is more than 85,000 patients that have been through this the Wealthy platform, and we can do a specific proposal and co-develop a CE mark prescription digital therapeutics within 8 months, which is very, very short, I can tell you. So that's everything I wanted to present concerning Wealthy Therapeutics. Now, for the second part, it's about DTx opportunities for pharma. And if you can go to the next slide. What I wanted to present here, on the top, on the first arrow, you can see the patient journey. As I'm pretty sure lots of you knows, very often when we look at opportunities for drug, we look at the time to identify patients or to go to diagnosis, because sometimes it can take a long time before we identify the right patient and we diagnose those patients. And then we have a second element or second opportunity, let's say, which is the treatment decision, because sometimes it takes long to have a treatment decision. Then you have the treatment monitoring, which is more known, very evident, let's say, and symptom management, as well as adherence, which is a very strong element for chronic disease. So DTx opportunity is really into the whole patient journey, let's say. And you can have, I try to make it very simple. So you can have two types of DTx. One is combination DTx, and Raphael mentioned combination with a medical device or with a drug. So you have combination DTx that can really be interesting for pharma when you want to have a monitoring of your treatment, or you want to help on symptom management or to improve adherence on the treatment. And then you can go even further with a standalone DTx, which is really preventing or treating a disease by itself. And then a standalone DTx is really something you can go from the phase 2 or phase 3 of your I mean, you can do a phase 3 DTx standalone, by the way, and prove its efficacy compared to standard of care, which could be a drug or a CBT or whatever. So that's all the opportunity. In terms of what's in it for me, when we are talking about what's in it for pharma industry in a DTx, the first element is patient outcomes, because you can really get patient outcomes from a DTx. You can get data for sure, and real world data, and very quickly you can get data, because otherwise you have to wait until having a register and to contract. I mean, it's complicated to get data from a disease, even though you're working on this disease. It provides you also agility, and also it's another point of interaction with the patient. On the other side, for DTx, why would they be interested to have a partnership with pharma? For sure, to provide the DTx to the patient, because very often, especially in Europe, patients are waiting for DTx to be free for them. So financially, pharma can propose this support to a patient, or get the availability to get it reimbursed. It's also a very good way to have commercial traction, because there's no better commercial traction than pharma, as well as experienced sales force that DTx doesn't have, and also the expertise on regulatory and scientific RCT, random trial, what I'm meaning by RCT. Sorry for my acronyms. So now case study, concrete studies. So here I really need Prayat to help me, because since I'm young in this in this company, sometimes the case studies are not like something I've been through myself, so I'm not so comfortable with it.
Yeah.
It's-
Karine, should I do the case studies?
That would be great. Thank you.
All right. So thank you everybody for having me here on this forum. So the first case study is an example of us co-developing a standalone digital therapeutic for a rare disease condition in partnership with a life sciences company. The way we went about doing this was that we licensed our core platform, which was the therapy agnostic platform to our life sciences partner. And remember, in this case, we did not have a use case or a product ready for that specific indication or for that specific therapeutic area in which we wanted to operate. On top of our core therapeutic platform, we leverage the knowledge and the understanding of the patient journey and the problem statements and the gaps in the patient journey that our pharma partner had or our life sciences partner had, to then identify gaps and opportunities to positively influence the patient health and patient outcome in real time. And that's where sort of the partnership really came together to work together towards identifying these things. We then designed solutions, deployed these solutions on the ground, managed the entire technology development of the platform, assisted in CE certification, and are currently undergoing a clinical trial as we speak. Intent is to launch this as a standalone solution on completion of the clinical trial as well. So if you move to the next slide, please. Thank you. Another example is of a long-term partnerships that we have had with a medical devices partner of ours, and this is more in Asia, where we worked with our partner or with the objective of can we improve the frequency of self-monitoring in the diabetes space, because inappropriate adherence to diagnostic testing by the patient was leading to suboptimal outcomes over a period of time. And if you just move to the next slide, please. What we realized was that not only were we able to improve the frequency of blood sugar monitoring significantly, so we took an average of 1 to 2 blood sugar tests per month of a patient, and we increased that to more than 70% of the users were testing themselves more than once per week, so that's 4 times per month, and more than 50% of the users were testing themselves more than 2 times per week, so that's actually 8 times per month. And then over a 2-year period, we realized, looking back at this data, that we showed clinically significant improvements in health outcome that were directly correlated with the improved testing frequency and the companion digital therapeutic that went along with the diagnostic device. So, and then what this led to was retrospective analysis of the real world evidence. And we actually co-authored 4 studies that we published with global medical journals and forums. So we've published 3 studies with the American Diabetes Association and 1 study with the ATTD, which is Advanced Therapeutics and Technology for Diabetes in Europe. And this remains to be a long-standing partnership of ours as well. So this shows that, you know, a companion or a combination of a diagnostic device and a digital therapeutic shows clinically significant improvements in health outcome over the long term as well for individuals. But yeah, I think that's all that we had. If you just move to the next slide, just to give you a quick snapshot of the team, we're about 100 people, very cross-functional team. So we have people from extremely healthcare backgrounds like doctors and physicians, and extremely non-healthcare backgrounds like consumer tech designers and people who don't know what healthcare is, and sort of bring a unique combination of those two together to create innovative and interesting products for our platform as well. Thank you.
All right. So thanks a lot to all the speakers, Karine and Prayat as well. for the last part. Happy to see Arvin actually after a few years from back times at Beringer. So we have actually some questions that were not answered. So now it's time for everybody to ask questions. If they wish, we can go back now to the first question. Maybe Prayat or Karim can give an answer here when it says, how do you define medical intervention?
Sure, maybe
Anybody
I can start, and if anybody else can chime in, then that would also be great. But the way we define medical interventions is any intervention that has some kind of clinical evidence or is clinically validated in nature. Now, this intervention could be as simple as lifestyle modification, cognitive behavioral therapy, or it could be slightly more complicated, like a dose titration algorithm as well, right? And that's where a software as a medical device or a digital therapeutic platform could be anything from a class 1C device to a class 3 C device, depending on the risk that's involved. But essentially, all of these interventions would be clinically backed, would be clinically validated, and to have had shown an improvement in health outcome for patients who have been using that particular intervention.
Thanks a lot, Prayat. Another question would be, always from Mariam, it would be, would you have examples of cardiovascular and women's health DTx? I think you also have some example before. You said in diabetes, what you just shared, right? So maybe this question is already answered. And the next one would be from Lillian. From your perspective, what are the unique challenges of DTx for chronic condition management? Again, I think Prayat or Karin.
Yeah, I think Prayat is the best person.
Prayat, we are on the spot.
Yeah, no, but that's I'm smiling because there are so many challenges. I don't know where to start, but I think aside from the more sort of the factors that we have to deal with, like the changing regulatory landscape, reimbursement pathways either not existing or being unsure in most markets. I think some of the more pressing challenges that we're trying to come together as a community and solve for would be around adoption and over the long term, especially by healthcare providers. I think it was mentioned that more millennials are now becoming healthcare providers, and their adoption of technology is going up. But historically, we've seen that even when presented with extremely solid clinical data and clinical evidence, there's still at times hesitancy for adoption of technology all over the world. Solving that is not, no one entity can solve that. So it's a combination of medical education, the industry, payers, and DTx companies like ourselves being able to make life as easy and as integrated for the healthcare provider as possible. That's sort of working towards making that happen. The other piece, I guess, would be around how do we, from a patient perspective, how do you ensure long-term usage, long-term compliance? You don't always need a patient to use. So, DTx products are not necessarily lifetime subscription products, but essentially, at the end of the day, we still need users to be motivated enough to use the product for a significant enough period of time so that we're able to influence their outcome. And these have been very interesting challenges to tackle. That's where different companies deal with it in different ways, but we look at it as bringing in experts from consumer technology who are great at user experience design, and engaging consumers over a long period of time. So we look at patients as individuals, as people, and not as patients, and design products for them in that way. But yeah, I mean, and there are plenty more, but these are just a couple that are ongoing, that I would want to call out.
And I will add to Prayat mention is it's very difficult to change habit of doctors somehow. So it's not easy also to have their their usage of DTx all the time.
Yeah, exactly. If I may jump in, obviously these are the challenges that you would face more when the DTx product is already in field, okay, and that you're already contacting with the doctors. But obviously you will face another set of challenges when you're upfront and developing the tool, okay. So here you would have, for instance, clinical validation, regulatory validation too, or how is it working with reimbursement, developing the tool at IT level. How do you make that? Is it safe? The data privacy, which is nowadays also a big challenge. So actually, I would say, depending on which stage you are and where you are, you will face different challenges. Okay, so yeah, that's just adding this part on what would be the challenge up front to when we're still creating the product.
Right. Thanks, Rafael. Maybe go to the next question. It's again, maybe Christine, you ask, would love to hear more about your claims you mentioned in the slide, in the last slide. Maybe can you, explain a bit more about this? In the meantime, I go for the next question, which is, are you planning to use this example for case study from case study number 2 as an exclusive collaboration with a specific company, or it is intended to be unbranded and to be used by all diabetes sufferers? Meaning we are saying it's going to be B2B, or it can be also B2C, right? Prayat, maybe it's yours. Yeah. I'll just give it to you, but I guess it's more for Wealthy, this question.
No, great question. So the example that I mentioned in the second sort of example was a partnership that we have specifically with a blood sugar monitoring device manufacturer, which is specific to one specific geography, and it doesn't prevent us from and we've deployed our solution independently with health systems, with payers, with other life sciences companies, so pharma companies as well, and in other geographies as well. So it's not a single exclusive solution that we have for them only.
Right. And the next one would be, which is the following one, what is actually the business model for your case study number 2? You just explained, which is partnership. Are you more creative in your approach than just big pharma as always paying the bills? Interesting. Yeah.
No, so actually, I didn't actually cover that, but in that example, Mariam, the big pharma is not paying the bill. It's commercialized, and there's a revenue share royalty model for both sides. So big pharma is not paying the bill.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
And also something interesting is that it's not only pharma that is paying. With Wealthy, there is really a partnership. Like sometimes Wealthy is trying stuff and pay for it, in order to make sure it works. And when they see that it's worth going there, then they propose it as a possibility with pharma. So I really think it's interesting because it's a learning process for both sides.
I applaud you. Thank you for the answer. I want just to give you some experience and some background to my question, because just this week I had a conversation with Frederick Debonk, and not many people may know him, but I was in an expert panel with him. He's the founder of a digital therapeutics company, because he invented MySugar, and he really increased and grew the company from N of 5 to N of 140, led all the efforts even after it has been acquired by Roche. And by Roche doing that, the problem is that they immediately limited to just Roche. And so Novo Nordisk, our company, my company, BI, Eli Lilly, everybody else was out. And he said the way and the approach that he has taken was a total failure, because by doing that and not really have an open platform where all the people can use it, you're limiting. And that's why he realized that. And we had this conversation with another, I mean, Christine knows those guys, HealthXL from Ireland. They have a module expert roundtable with only 12 people from Livongo, from Teladoc, innovators, investment guys, and all that stuff. And I can tell you from my experience, we also, and Luca knows that, I'm not giving away trade secrets, we have been trying to build a platform for COPD patients with some of the biggest consultancies on the planet. One with D in the beginning and Eloyd at the end, and others. And we sunk millions of euros because they just didn't get it. And we had to really cut back on the funding and really drop the whole thing because they just were not getting it. Yeah. And on that note, with regard to finance, you should also be discussing new approaches for financing, like social impact bonds. Yeah. I don't know how familiar you are with those, but I suggest that this is something that you should be looking at, where you can really, on the basis of blockchain technology, you can have the payments, and it's distributed ledger technology. There are certain examples. Maybe you can take that up, Luca, and really this digital club to discuss that at a future forum and meeting. Sorry to really hijack some of the questions, but I just want to share my experience, and you can hear it, also my emotions and my frustrations about some of the approaches, because some people completely missed the boat in my industry.
Can you repeat the name? Social what?
Social impact bonds.
Social impact bonds. Thank you for that.
I'm very familiar with those, Armin. Thank you for those.
Okay.
In fact, while we haven't activated an impact bond yet, because as you're aware, they're very complicated to put together, a lot of stakeholders involved. We are working with grants. So we are working with an academic institute for a research study on grants as well. So yes, but totally aligned in terms of what you're saying.
And all right. Now, next question comes from Francesco, who asks for, how do you address the problem of a shortage of medical professionals who should recommend the use of such solutions and then continuously monitor the resulting clinical outcomes? This is a big issue for everyone, adoption, I would say. Anyone who wants to answer? No, because maybe Karin, you want to give an answer on.
It's not only medical, it's not only doctors that can propose or prescribe this type of treatment. It can be also nurses. I really think it depends, not always, but very often nurses can really do some good job here.
Perfect. And if this is the second part of the question says, well, maybe we can start, as you said before, from the young ones, maybe young doctors would help, to prescribe this type of solution rather than the more mature ones. That could be, it's not an optimal solution, but at least is the way. And I think it's,
and because everybody's using now application at home, in your day-to-day life, little by little, people, even old doctors, even old people, get used to take care of their health through application. So I think it's really coming now. Even unfortunately, because of the COVID, people are getting used to remotely take care of their health, even doctors.
If you let me jump in, I'd like to say that there's of course a lot work to do, okay, in terms of education, okay, for healthcare professionals. I think that this is not a topic that is very touched, or is even touched, okay, some moment in the career, and for example, education related to data technology and so on. And sometimes it's misunderstanding and so that maybe artificial intelligence will replace them, and it's not that. Okay, it's about supporting them and to make, for example, better clinical decisions. Okay, I think that there is some work to do related to training and education in the career, for example. Yeah.
I was wondering if I could contribute to on Nigel Brogan. I'm actually one of Annabelle's colleagues, but in the UK, I head up digital healthcare. That question actually is not a problem for me. That's an opportunity. That allows me to go to the NHS to say, you don't have staff to do what they need to do. You need this digital solution to support you. Patients want this. We have the evidence. Work with us in the short term to show how it can be done. And rather than just focus on the tech, focus on all the soft parts around it. What support you're going to give them to make it a success? Because a lot of the clinicians I speak to say, I'm too busy. However, I know I should be doing this. And the pitch here in the UK and around the world is getting worse. And what we should be focused on is say, let us take the heavy lift of some of the administration stuff you're doing so you can do the patient time, or fundamentally allow us to provide digital therapeutics, which has the AI in there, so you're not having to monitor these patients constantly. There will be a threshold in there to say, myself, type 2 diabetes, my levels have gone high, I will now trigger a message through to, and it might not have to be that healthcare professional, it might be a hub which has been set up to support people who are remotely monitoring their health conditions. So a lot of the work we're doing in the NHS is not solely saying what's broken now, what's the future pathways, what's the future models, how does integrated care going to work, and challenge them to say to some of the GPs, you need to let go of your power and trust your nurses, your other allied health staff to do this, and we'll work with you. And I know that's a wee bit of a leap of faith, and it's quite challenging, but some of them really, really get it. And the way to influence them is to show the halo effect, get the early adopters on board, support them, give them that evidence, and then they will start to influence their peers to how they want to do that. So I found today's session very informative. Thank you very much. And I think we could probably talk about this quite a lot. But that was just my views on how you do it. And it's so much not sort of focused on the features and what it does, is what's this going to address? What's the problems? And how can we work with you to address that? And that's the biggest thing. Because whenever I've done this, and I've done it for 20 years in the NHS, they keep changing the future models. So digital cannot find a home and sit and be nurtured and grown. They change the goalposts, they change the policies, funding, the whole lot. And like we say, the only constants is change. So a lot of people here in the UK, there's a bit of a thumbs up there. A lot of the people in the UK are saying, we've got to do something a wee bit different. And at the moment, we are running with a backlog of over 2 years waiting lists, undiagnosed cancer, diabetes. And then we come along saying, we've got something sexy for you. They don't want sexy, they want practicality, they want impact. And that's the key thing. And I think it probably resonates with everybody. That's those clear messages. And Annabelle had a slide earlier with the different benefits from everybody. I screenshot that. That's right on the money. That's the key message. And what you want them to do is to say, circle the ones which mean the most to you, and we'll make that happen for you. And that's our commitment. So sorry to come in the last moment, but that's my views.
Wow, thanks a lot, Nigel.
My coffee kicking in.
That's great. Christine Jacob also shared a paper on some aspects of the clinical adoption. It's in the chat, so please have a look if you wish. Now we have time for a last question if you want to. Anybody else wants to write a question? No? Okay.
Could I just ask one to Wealthy team? You mentioned a coaching platform. Is that virtual coaches to support people through the app? And if so, what's sort of the ratio of a virtual coach to patients, just so I understand how that works, if I've understood that correctly?
Actually, Priya, I just say it's not virtual at all. Huh? It's real people.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like this, but virtually, not face to face or physically. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
And
No,
Priya,
it is. Yeah, absolutely. So it's it's paramedical individuals. So it could be nurses, nutritionists, psychological counselors, really depending on the unmet need in the patient journey. And therefore, the answer to your second question, unfortunately, is it depends. It depends on the type of condition. So, for example, in a more in a possibly life-threatening condition like heart failure, the ratio would probably be a little bit lower, closer to 100 to 150 patients per nurse. Whereas in a diabetes, it would probably be a little bit higher, closer to 250 or 300, or maybe even a little bit more than that. So it just depends on the patient profile, the severity of the condition as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question and the answer. I guess we are a bit late, 5 minutes late, so we would like to close the session here today. Thank you to Raphael, Annabelle, Karine, and Prayat for joining and making this possible. It's the first, session of the Digital Therapeutics Club, so we'll be happy to have you here next month, and we'll let you know when the next event takes place. So thanks a lot, everyone, for participating, listening, and also asking our question away. Thanks a lot, and I wish you all a good evening if you are in Europe. All right, take care.
Thank you, Luca.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Hello.